So I'll just show you, Eleanor, how we are using Halter desktop. So where I find Halter desktop really handy at this time of the year is that all animals, it's just random reports, right? The things that I'm using most at the moment, I'm sorting cows at the moment around short gestation length semen and making sure that those cows, because the thing about this technology is cows are calving early. So it's designed for cows to calve 14 days earlier than normal. And what ends up happening is they'll calve at the same time as you're getting your replacements in, and then you end up with the wrong, keeping the wrong calves, keeping the wrong heifers. So that's just something I've been using. I know that cows calving after the 27th of August will have been short gestation length. So that was just a report I was using the other day. But the ones I'm particularly using a lot of at the moment are sorting cows that are on once a day. They've gone through the colostrum mob, they're cycling well, they're ruminating well rather, and I'm trying to give cows about 10 days on once a day milking before they go to twice a day. So
what are the different filters that you've got?
So I've got filtering out of one herd, which happens to be the clean once a day herd. I'm looking at rumination times greater than 450 minutes, grazing minutes greater than 375, and we had some light cows calve this spring due to the difficult winter we had, so our body condition scored the herd already, and cows as they calve, and I'm just making any light cow on this farm below 4, because it makes it super easy for me to run a filter on it. And any cow that's greater than 4.5 is going to twice a day, and any 4s are staying on once a day until I see them cycling. So those are my filters, and then days since calving is greater than 9. But if we made this 8, that will show me the cows tomorrow. So there's 10 cows that will come out of the once a days tomorrow, go to the twice a days. So that's just a simple example of using the desktop, and the team are doing this, not just me, in real time in the cow shed every morning, and then I'm just loading a draft straight into ProTrack off there. And use different, you could export it as a CSV into Minder and then load a draft out of Minder to ProTrack. It just depends how complicated you want to make it. If you've got 30 or 40 animals, definitely, yeah. But for 10, you can just punch them in. So I know I'm looking at individual animals. I might do a wee sort there on ruminating. And then I'll probably say, at 6.5, let's just have a quick look here on the app as well, because what the desktop maybe doesn't allow you to do is get that granularity around the health that the app does. So I'm particularly interested to know the trends, whereas your desktop's not really giving you a picture of trends, but I'm looking at that cow and looking at how her grazing's coming up. And her rumination has come back a bit, but that's because in the colostrum mobs they're on some pretty fibrous hay. But she's a cow that I'm not quite sure yet whether I'm going to clear her or not. She's 8. I'll probably even just be interested to know, did she have any calving difficulty or anything like that as well? Yeah, just as part of that decision making. So that's a good sort of example of how we use the desktop every day, all the time at the moment.
So you're using this every single day, and this is just helping you to filter out
correct
which cows are going to meet these criteria that you set.
Yeah.
And then this one was borderline.
Yeah.
You're all like.
Yeah. Or I could jump into grazing, so I might go down and have a look at a cow not grazing, or some of my cows resting a lot. Why are you resting? 9-year-old cow. Yeah. One of the things that I find really interesting on these alerts is, in health alerts, and sort of slightly change the subject, but we've pretty much, so we typically see a low rumination alert if you turn your sensitivity right up on calvings. It doesn't mean they've got milk fever, it's just typical of cow calving. But we did a wee while ago, we were seeing some very high grazings. And what we've decided high grazings indicates, and very high grazings indicates, is teeth grinding. And cows grind their teeth when they're in pain. So we're picking just some health issue that we can't see is a very high grazing alert, and then going and investigating, which is quite cool. So a cow that might calve, I don't know, whatever reason she's had a difficult calving, we haven't seen it because she successfully calved in the knife or whatever. There's a cow with one shot of pain relief. Bang, she's firing and off she goes. The app shows you that.
Yeah. So how do you see that when in the app that she's all good to go again?
I guess I would see that in that all those statistics would return back to a bit more of a normal range around more normal eating. But ultimately, that's not technology, that's farmer looking at their animal in milk and shed. Some of the other reports, so just sorting dries, I might have touched on that one just before. Days to expected calving, the calver mob sorting. We were doing this a bit earlier on where we were sorting cows from the dries into the Springer mob. So the Springers is where they're calving, and we're sorting them looking at udders on the platform, but we're also looking at expected calving dates as well. So those are sort of some of the ways I use the desktop quite a bit at the moment. Yeah.
How are you sorting these for like the calving mob? What are the different groups that you're sorting into? Or is this just into the ones that are going to be calving soon?
It's more into the ones that are going to be calving soon.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a report I was using earlier on in the spring. Once you sort of get going, some of these things, they sort of almost just happen daily, and you don't so much need to run a report on it, but they're really good for establishing a group. Like if I go back to the once a days to sort mob for tomorrow, there's just little things that are simple. Right? I know I'm going to draft these cows, and I can just reassign them straight to cleanse twice a day, boom, and they're done. So they've left the milking shed, they've gone to that mob, and they've been guided straight into the right break, and they've joined the right, the right mob. Otherwise, you end up with cows unassigned in a paddock, and then you've got to assign them. And sometimes you find in the app that creates issues because then break is associated with two mobs, not one. And once you're stuck in that regime, then your allocations in your app start getting played up because it doesn't know which cows are in what breaks. And some of the few little tricks I've learned across the time to make that work better.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you just keep one mob per break?
No, not necessarily. And you would have seen this morning, we are running multi-mobs in breaks. So milking cows, one mob. But I'm just going to break the rules actually, because I've got a red cow here who is on once a day for recovery. She had an infection and she just needs time. I've then got red cows and lame cows, which I drafted out this morning in this break. And they'll swap from one mob to the other throughout the day. And then looking at this mob of springing cows, we've got springers, we've got point of calvers, so those are cows displaying signs they're about to calve. We've got just calved. I've got a couple of short gestation length cows to pull out of there. So I've got a couple of lame cows indicated in there because they're lame pre-calving, and we want to focus our attention on their health and well-being. So we'll run, sometimes we can be running 5 or 6 mobs in a break.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but just because it zeroes us in on what's the background to this animal and what management do we need to focus our attention around. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many different mobs have you got at the moment?
Heaps.
Yeah.
Got to be a bit careful not to have too many, eh? But so we're transitioning our Springer mob today from replacements. I need to teach Georgia how to spell Cheryl, eh? We won't tell Georgia. So she is actively sort of changing cows into that mob as she goes today with just what she's doing. But we're running 2 clean milking mobs. We're running 2 colostrum herds. So as I was saying to you earlier, we like now we've got Halter and we don't have the workload of the extra mob and the fences to put our our day 0, 1 and 2 cows into a mob. And because they're the cows that tend to be your high risk colostrum cows on that transition. And then we will draft them from that mob on day 3 into colostrum 2s. And colostrum 2s are days 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however long it takes them to clear that mob on the RMT test in the shed and be suitable for the vet. But that mob tend to be the mob that just want to get on and eat and become a sort of routine milking cow. So putting them in their own mob's actually really handy. So we've got those mobs, and then we've actually got some empty cows that are due to go to the works at the moment. So they're in a mob. As of yesterday, we've got some dries. These are cows that are some way away from calving. Anything you guys saw this morning in the paddocks are just calved cow. And as we identify them, we carve them and halter, we put them in that mob, and then that makes the draft simple. One of the things I love to do with halter and mobs, and Sam will talk to you more about this if he hasn't already, but if you are drafting a group of cows, one of the things you're always worried about is you misdraft a cow and the wrong cow goes back to the paddock. So if they've been shifted to a different mob, it's visual. You see that you misdrafted the cow, and she comes back to the paddock. Yeah. And then there's just a few other mobs here at the moment, some lame cows, some late calvers on another property, some empties, which we're going to carry those 7 cows over to next season. PO calving is point of calving, and those are the ones that we know have just started labour and we want to monitor them so that they progress. My reds I showed before, the short gestation lengths, we're just starting to build that mob up today. The springers, and then as we draft our calved cows in the cow shed, we bring them in and draft them here every day. We'll put them in this yet to be milked group. And so that differentiates that they've been drafted, they haven't been milked yet, and this mob of just calved is able to start being used in the paddock again as a just calved mob.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you're always moving them through
Yeah.
each of the mobs.
So heaps.
Yeah.
Heaps of mobs.
Yeah, I was like trying to count them all.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like 15 mobs.
Yeah. And it hasn't been like that. The beauty of halter is that will come and go, right? So, but one of the things about halter is you could jump on cow 3, have a look at her health. She's rocking. That's great to see. But there's a history. And that can be helpful sometimes. What happened to this cow? Why did this happen? Why has that been the outcome? Well, if you go deleting mobs, you lose that. So that's why we'll kind of retain quite a few mobs at certain times of the year. So you've got an archive of your management.
Right, yeah. So you can always see where she's been throughout the season.
Yes.
And to really paint a picture for like pre-Halter versus post-Halter, how did you do all this before?
Well, you didn't. You did some of it in ProTrack. So we would move cows in groups using Minder and ProTrack, and as they came through the shed, they get shifted into a mob. We use Trello boards. Sorry, just turn my radio down. And love Trello boards for some farmers might use this. I actually think this is a really underrated bit of free kind of software out there. So we run Trello as our calving list. So all the team have got Trello on their computer, and they can all. This is our yellow notebook in our pocket, because that's not sort of Halter does that, but it doesn't. You can shift a cow to a mob, but this is where we're going to put some information about what she had. ARI means she's an at-risk cow. She's one that might get milk fever. They're generally either a carryover or a 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old cow on our farm, and they sometimes need more calcium support at calving. So that's our sort of notes. And then, that was the check at 2:30 yesterday afternoon. Then George's check last night at 8 o'clock. Then our first check this morning. And then any subsequent. So you're also creating a timeline here of animals. When did they calve? What's their behaviour, etc. Alongside Trello, we're running our jobs to do today. Jobs we need to get done this next week. Jobs we've got done. You just pull your jobs from one to the other. Bit of our critical times. So we just sort of setting goals for the team all the time about what we're trying to hit. in a bit of a note page. So yeah, we've kind of got that running alongside Halter, alongside WhatsApp, which is our kind of chat board. And as a result, we're actually a paperless farm,
Wow.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. You're so organized.
We've done it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how we used to, you've answered the original question, Cece, we used Trello and ProTrack. Yeah. And then you were doing complicated things like how many cows have gone through the exit race. Oh, so there's that many cows in the mob. Oh, so we need to decide this much feed times this many square metres. The break needs to be this big. Pace the break out, build your fences. We've run different apps over the past, GPS apps, so you could build fences with all of that sort of stuff. Now we're just doing it on Halter.
Could you walk us through that? So how you've got all of these different mobs and these different groups. How are you allocating their feed or managing their feed allocation at the moment? Because also assuming you've got lots of different, well, they've all got their own different requirements.
So we've got an allocation plan for each of these mobs. Again, this was a mob grazing some quite poor areas of a hill paddock yesterday, and those parts of that paddock did not have that feed cover on them, so they didn't actually get that amount of grass. Our reds are a reds mob for a very short period of the day in between milkings, and then they go back to colostrum 2. So I'm focusing my allocation for all the cows I know are going to be in that mob. So that, yeah, those are colostrums. It's interesting, I never would have allocated colostrum cows 20 kilos. These are cows calved days 3 to 6, but you're based on your energy calcs, based on my observations. We grossly underestimated or overestimated utilisation in the past and unfed cows. So Halter is helping us to get that a bit better.
How did Halter help you realise that?
Because we're people and we've all got biases, right? And our biases are like, freshly calved cows can eat 15, right? So I'm just going to do my maths on 50 cows times 15 divided by how much covers in the paddock gives, my squares I'm allocating this, how much grass they're going to get, how much supplement. I did walk around with an energy equation in my pocket, and being a farm consultant, but it still doesn't mean I do energy equations in my head all the time. So that's what the beauty of this app, because I guess you're just coming back and testing yourself all the time, right? So we're allocating to colostrums, short gestations, dries, springers. I'm not so worried about those empty cows. And then these other ones are mobs that have only just been formed, or they're mobs within mobs. So you can have as many mobs as you want. The thing one of the other things I suppose is I don't toggle supplement and just repeat the same thing day after day after day, which the app can allow you to do, because I want my team to actually load in what supplement got fed on a daily basis based on, because that becomes a record, which then goes into, like our nutrient budget, some of those sort of post-analysis things that we're doing around what did we feed and why did we feed it, is that the right thing to do? Yeah. So you've got to walk this fine line with this stuff between making it too complicated and making too many decision points that people need to be across. So I'm trying to keep really this 2 calving mobs, there's 2 colostrum mobs, and there's 2 milking mobs. So we're really focused on allocation to 6 mobs. That's manageable. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple of people on the team responsible for the pre-calving cows, and there's a couple of people on the team responsible for the post-calving cows. And so people just know the area and focus. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
How?
They've got to own it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, including the day off. Who's going to do that, and how's it going to get done? Well,
yeah. Related to that, Cece and I were talking about this earlier, and we're interested in how you found Halter as a tool for working with your staff and helping them.
Well, I think Sam's a better person because he's the guy on the ground with the team. But I guess I think all of these things, whether it be Halter or ProTrack in your cow shed for on-site health and safety and whatever, or recording records in Minder, it's culture. So you've got to create a culture of why do we do this? Why is it important? Like all our staff are provided with a phone as part of their job, which is paid for, and they get the benefit of the good phone and 3 minutes of free data at home. Farms on Starlink, and everyone's got Starlink at their house because we want them to be using digital tools and that just be part of every day. So I guess we build their culture, and then Sam and I will live by it. So they see us doing it and setting that expectation. Yeah. But I'm also conscious that, and I think I said it just before, it doesn't replace being a farmer. It helps you be a better farmer. So it's not about, I'll just do everything off my phone now. It's just, I'm not left wondering because I've got some point of reference when I'm out there trying to make a decision about how to get a better result. I can come back to some numbers and some figures and some things that, truisms, I suppose. Yeah.
That is epic.
Yeah.
That is 25 minutes worth of goodness right there.
Cool.
And you brought up your spring plan.
Yes.
Planner as well. Yeah.
I don't think
We didn't even have a look at that.
quite chat
Yeah.
about spring plans because there isn't really a rotation planner in Halter.
No.
And I'm sure it's probably on the wish list, and I know there's a lot of things on your wish list. So this is just an old one I built many moons ago, and I copied it off another farm-wise consultant, so it's Brent Boyce's IP, not mine. But the principle of in your grazing system in New Zealand is you've got to know your first round, and you need to know your last round, and you need to get your cows at target pasture cover, and you need to book your holidays. I'm not very good at the last one, but the earlier ones I try and do well. And then, so the thing about this spring rotation planner is it's really like a financial budget. You've got more going out than you've got coming in. So how are you going to allocate that scarcity until such point as you're earning as much as you're spending? And so the years ago there was some very good science done at Uruwhenua in the North Island, which demonstrated that if you follow a process of allocating on square meters and follow a line and slowly allocate your cows more and more feed till you get to that magic balance state where you grow as much as you're eating, you're going to set your cows up and your farm up for success. And if you go too fast too early, you'll run out of feed and your cows won't peak and they won't cycle. So we just run a very simple allocation method. We were looking at square meters per cow, and we've got some an accurate calving spread sitting in behind this spreadsheet, so we know how our cows are calving. Quite interesting, we had a bigger week 3, week 4 this year than maybe we do some years. Yeah, so we've had a funny calving spread this year. Normally we calve intensively in the first 2 weeks. This year we calved intensively in week 3 or 4. So that's driving demand. It's driving how many cows are moving from dry to springer to colostrum to milking. And then we're simply looking at what do we know roughly pre and post grazing covers. That's giving us a sense of allocation, and then we're marrying that with our Halter app. And so my team have got some guidance about how many squares a cow's getting, and then we're jumping in the app and jumping into the allocations tab, jumping into the cleans. And here I'm going to show myself up as not following what I've done in my plan, because we allocated 35 squares yesterday in a hill paddock of new grass. We found that the dry matter in that new grass was really low yesterday, and they digged it by 10 o'clock and they got another 15 squares. So they'd already had 50 squares, which is more than I'd normally feed during the day. They then went back to a break in the evening after milking, which was last night's break, while we waited for them to all to get there. Then they moved on to fresh grass with silage, so they've all got a chance to eat the silage at once. Not some cows get it and others don't. and that was another break of 67 squares because it was including, can't go in there, but it was including a whole area with no grass on it that I mentioned earlier. So we're kind of using these different tools as a broader plan for the team about, you got this many cows in the mob, this is how many square metres per cow to what.
Yeah. It was really interesting. So you mentioned that you had your plan, but then when we went to allocation, you'd actually made your decision that was different to that plan.
Yeah.
Based on
Being a farmer.
Yeah, like what data was it that you saw that you were like, oh, I would change my plan now and I'm gonna.
Confidence, I suppose, and having been a dunce from plenty of springs, that the plan is simply that. It's a plan, right? And the goal is to get from here to here. How you get there through that, in this case 49-day first round, is up to you. So yesterday it snowed in the afternoon and it was a cold night. We fed cows more going into that. That's when you'd run into issues in a cold night if you hadn't kept the energy up. Right now I know I'm 10 hectares ahead of target in the spring plan, but I also know I'm about 200 kilos dry matter more on farm of cover than I actually anticipated way back when I did the first planting. So I've got confidence, I've got more feet up my sleeve. I've gone faster when I needed to, and I'll slow down when I need to. Yeah. And that's just farming, right? And experience. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this technology for farmers to work together and learn off everybody. So if you went back to, I went to, I'm going to show my age here, unfortunately. So I went to university and graduated in 2003. And then was fortunate to have a job as a consulting officer for Dairy NZ in Canterbury. And Canterbury was converting farms, flat earth. So there was a whole lot of new farmers down there, all learning together about how do you do irrigated Canterbury dairy wells, and how do you go from, I used to run 250 cows, now I run 800. No, geez, you're running 1,500. How do you do this stuff? So my job was helping the farmers learn from one another and come up with solutions to some of those new experiences. Halter is exactly the same thing, right? And we need to do more farmer-to-farmer learning on how do you adopt this sort of technology successfully, because it's not an insignificant spend in our calving expenses. You know, we've got to get a return from this, and that return doesn't show up in one place in our profit and loss. It's going to show up in like 10 different expense categories. That's going to show up in milk income and meat income. It's going to show up in staff retention. It's going to show up peace of mind and enjoyment and a whole bunch of non-financials as well. So I guess that's, to me, probably the bit that I'm, having had that prior life in farm dairy sector extension, is how do we do a better job of onboarding this tech on farms and supporting each other as farmers, so that you only actually have really good, successful experience with it. Yeah. And that's not because I'm my Halter hat on, obviously, and I want Halter to be successful, but I want dairy to be successful. And for dairy to be successful, Halter and adoption of sort of technology, it won't be for everybody, but for those that do want to embark on it and want to invest in it, we want them to kick goals and smash it out of the park. Yeah.
Just for my, not so much for filming, but just for my own curiosity, like, what was it that worked really well for you when you were in that phase? Consulting the life and getting farmers working together, like, how it worked well and what do you think hold to
a burning platform. So they knew why, so for them it was either the pain of scaling and how do you do that, but fundamentally the majority of us farm because it's really good fun. It's incredibly rewarding. It's, we're doing something that's stimulating physically and mentally, and we know there's great outcomes for the country doing it. And I think part of that, there's a recent report that Rabo published around succession data in New Zealand, where recent Nuffield did one as well. We've got the biggest generational change in farming equity occurring right now in New Zealand, given. And Halter is, or these sorts of technologies is part of that, because, you know, how do I bottle 21 years of dairy experience up and put it in Georgia? Because year through. But I can't afford for Georgia to take 21 years to learn. So I want to scale that now so that it turns out for us, you know, inside sort of performance on farm. Then this is something, Georgia's digital native. She doesn't know anything different than Snapchatting every 30 seconds. But she gets the stuff because she can tie the two things, physically what she sees and digitally what she sees together. Yeah, you know, there's a farmer, Ross Thatcher, Ross and Bromman. They're out in Honkaga, down by the sea. It should be a great fun for you guys to see it in time today, because it's just a whole base right there underneath their farm. Ross would be, I guess, would be 60 or thereabouts. Not the sort of people I ever thought would buy Halter. And I saw him a couple of days ago at Beacon. How's it going? Just loving it. It's just, why is that? He's just walling up, looking up and down, putting fences. You know, suddenly got time. You know, I'm not a digital person, said Ross, but this is working very well for me. So that's exciting, isn't it? You know?
Absolutely.
And I guess the question that Sam and I have got is, you know, having done a few years of this stuff with technology, is how do you help restaurant people successful fast? Yeah. Because if they're successful, we've got a very dairy sector successful, the factory successful, like it's, we're not competing with one another.
What would your climate tips for farmers like that who are maybe not super technology focused, or also, I mean, you've always kind of been farming like this. Halter is just
I've always been a data geek.
Yeah.
Do you
have any tips for people who aren't like that, who are adopting Halter, on like how they can start to get more out of it?
I think it is use Halter's network of farmers that are using it successfully, and then try and find some time to go and watch what they do, or find a buddy and talk to them.
Yeah.
And share. You know, like it'd be interesting for us to dial in and see our farm. We couldn't change anything, but we could see what we're doing, right? Just give them ideas.
Yeah, right. As you mean like look at your app,
Yeah.
see what you're doing. Yeah.
Create a virtual community where you can see what other farmers are doing on their farms. If they're prepared to share.
Yeah.
Those would be ideas I guess I'd have to, you know, Ross, I'm not familiar with their farm that well. Let's say it's 300-ish cows. They're going to have different demands to 750. They'll probably look at 2 colostrum mobs and say that's more complicated, right? But there'll be the other things that they do that we do, because they're still animal centric and grass centric, so that makes sense. Yeah, and then there'd be people with 2,000 cows that look at what we're doing and say, well, actually, they're really useful systems. Why not adopt those? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good idea.
It's very true. And I think in lieu of that, for the meantime, yeah, I guess it's why we're here,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to also get what you're doing on the app, but also the rationale, and to understand, like, this is what we do, or why we do what we do, and it works for us.
Yeah.
Take inspiration from that, have fun with that, or
Yeah.
leave it if it's not for you.
And like I say, there's better farmers than us. You know, we're trying to be good, but we're not necessarily got the highest profit or highest production or whatever, but we don't really mind. We're proud of our farm and what we're achieving. We enjoy doing it. And we're keen to share, because we're obviously really successful.
We appreciate sharing a lot. Yeah.
Well, it's fun to share and get the insights from you guys too, right?
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
But certainly one of the things, so this has been an easier spring for us, the weather's been good. But we are getting our team hires at 4 or 5 o'clock, 6 out of 7 days a week. And we're getting that one blip day on the spring when that's fine. Like last night, I didn't get until 20 to 6. Still 5:40 in the spring. Still pretty really. And so how do you measure some of those things, right? Like Our team's still doing reasonable hours if you look at payroll, but the quality hours, there's quality rest, there's quality sleep, there's sort of some of that stuff that's critical as an employer in health and safety and wellbeing. Yeah.
What was that like before Halter?
I think we are probably benefiting also from having slightly more labour this year than we've had, but we used to have 7 moles, and every mob had 6 or 7 reels. All of that work got, setting up lanes, guiding cows into paddocks, guiding cows out of paddocks, going down, winding the fence up after milking, pacing out the next break, doing another shift at night checks at 8 o'clock, doing a shift at 5 in the morning, winding up step back. All that's gone. And then that time's redeployed into other things, which is mostly checking cows, spending time with cows and commercial people. Yeah.
That's would love for you to elaborate more on that, because then often most people think, oh, it's just been time back, so it's a sleep in, but I would love to hear more about how you're redeploying that time.
Yeah.
That you're doing for that instead.
Look, I don't have any time and motion stuff or anything like that, because it's all kind of just on the fly as it happened.
Yeah.
But
even as thing today, I guess, anchoring back in the day of
we're
life.
just like thinking about things like the fact that 5 this morning, and I think we might have talked about it in the previous clip, but you're out early. Well, I started work this morning at 10:05. We had the shed running at 5:15. And in that 25 minutes, I'd checked 2 colostrum mobs, shifted them, treated a downer cow, got 2 milking mobs in, locked them on the yard, checked in with Dylan who'd had yesterday off, handed over a couple of bits of information they needed to have, and thought about what I was going to talk to you guys about today.
That's a very productive 25 minutes.
While I was drinking a cup of coffee, and I had my earpods in and a bit of something in my ears. It was great. Kind of come back to some of those couple of previous conversations ago, but Halter is another set of hands. So as a skilled farmer, I can do more with my skills. Probably one of the biggest frustrations here is we could do exactly what we're doing at 730 odd cows calved. We could do it with 1,000 cows, same team, the same resources with Halter. I just don't have the land to do it. But Halter would enable that, right? So all farmers with that opportunity, there's one. There's those scaling opportunities. Yeah. So it's a funny one, isn't it? But I guess it's just that if you are an experienced farmer and you've got the ability to be able to sort of navigate 4 or 5 different things all balls in the air all at once, which a lot of us do during spring, that app's helping you do that because you're checking mobs, you're looking at cows, how did you respond, what's going on, do I need to draft here? And all of this stuff is relevant because the sector's not growing on capital gain, it's growing on profit, and profits coming out of efficiency. And efficiency's now kind of intricately tied to environmental footprint and greenhouse gas emissions, Fonterra's market claims, let's say, in states, a whole bunch of other stuff. And we've got to somehow tie all of those things together because we need those market claims to be true. We need to hit $10 plus milk prices because we've got to deal with inflation sort through. $10 isn't a very high milk price. And we've got social scrutiny and we need to be able to prove that animals are looked after, receive pain relief when they're suffer around. All those things will look back to health and all that stuff. A dairy cow in New Zealand right now is probably worth, a good cow's worth $2,500 to $3,000 a year. I can't afford for one to be lost. Because if I've got surplus cows, I'm going to sell. I think there's an opportunity there for our family. So, again, these sorts of technologies, Halter's good, but I appreciate there are other ones as well. They're helping farmers create individuals again in a big herd. So cows don't get lost in the system anymore. with these sorts of technologies. And as a result of that, hopefully performance goes up.
Absolutely.